Welcome back to this episode of Paint Society, the channel where the learning doesn't stop when the video ends. In this video, we're going to talk to you about the most important part before you get to the paint job, which is taping. How to do the taping of the vehicle, and more importantly, how to use plastic only to get a nice tight fit over your vehicle so you can paint it nice and clean. Now in this video, I'm going to teach you the proper way to tape. That way when it dries, you don't have to worry about any bridging of the tape to the paint. I'm also going to show you, if you're painting in your garage and you do have some areas where you didn't remove moldings or glass and you need to tape it all the way close to the molding, I'm going to show you what you need to do and how to pull off that tape and what time frame to pull off that tape so you don't get any bridging paint. Now down here in South Florida, we have a lot of humidity and it's hot. We have a lot of issues with tape. So I've gone and I've used the high performance 3M tape. Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive. We were using the yellow before, but I find it was just peeling off and it wasn't the best quality for down here. So where are you watching this video from? Let me know down in the comments. I would love to know where my viewers are watching. Leave a comment down below. So the first thing is when we're taping a vehicle that we're doing two doors on, we're gonna be starting from the back and moving towards the front, just because of the overlap on the front door to the rear door. So let's start here in the door jamb. Now the number one mistake a lot of painters will make is they will not clean the area that they're putting tape on. This is a solvent-based cleaner. It's gonna remove any residue or any oils or contaminants that's not gonna allow that paint to stick. That's the most important thing before putting down any sort of tape. Now this here is a masking machine. Now although you don't need to buy it, it really does help out. And I'll link one in the description that's a little bit cheaper so you can use it at your house. Now, if you don't want to buy this, you can go ahead and get a hand masker, which you can use on automotive or even in the house. That's going to do the same thing, and it's handheld. So basically what this is going to do is it's going to apply a piece of tape to a piece of paper. We're going to be using a 6-inch in this case for inside of the door jambs. So you'll pull it and then you go ahead and use this area to tear it off. It has little sharp teeth. And then you have a perfectly masked up paper and tape that we can apply in a door jamb. Now what we're going to do is we're going to apply it right here into this 90. Now the one thing I don't use really anymore is foam tape because it leaves a crusty edge. I'm going to show you what we do to get around that. So I'm going to place this right here in the 90 area so that any overspray will land on this paper instead of landing on our door jamb paint. Now the tape we're using here is still the yellow. For small places like this, it works just fine, but for the exterior and the wider tape, we're noticing that it really just pulled up. And make sure to tape it down so it doesn't come up. Nice. And this little nifty tool is called the Easy Edger. I'm one of the rare people that cannot do a back mask using just my hands, and I need a fancy little tool to do it for me. Basically, all you gotta do is pull it, and it will give you a back mask edge just like this. You can see how it's folded. Now the purpose of this back masked edge is to allow overspray to softly land instead of applying a sharp edge like this where it will leave a hard line and it will not be buffable. So we'll just pull it up a little bit, and then again we can tear it right here, and there we have a soft edge on this side right here. And we're going to apply this right at the edge of where the sanded clear coat is and the gloss, right there at the edge. And we're going to put it on and make sure we allow the tape not to pull, and gently put it on, otherwise it will pull back. So put it right here and then all the way down. Perfect. So effectively what we have is a nice soft edge here. Once the overspray floats into this area, we'll barely even need to buff it. On the inner door edge, I noticed that there's a molding that was never removed. So we need to make sure that we go ahead and remove these moldings prior to putting tape. This will ensure that no paint gets on the molding, and also will ensure that we have a nice clean gap to tape on to metal instead of rubber. Perfect. And with that rubber removed, now we can go ahead and tape into this area. For this, since it's a hard edge, we can go ahead and use our paper and our tape right there at the edge. There's a seam sealed edge. Again, the rubber will cover this up. So we'll put it right there at the edge, and this will help with overspray. And I'll show you how to tape this up later. And now with the door closed, paper on paper is going to ensure a nice, clean finish. Over here on the quarter panel, we popped off the rear bumper so we can get full refinish here on this gap. So what I like to do is tape that off in this area first, then we'll just tape off the bumper. Then I'll apply a little piece of tape here to hold it all together. You can make sure that you put one on the front end so when we go to tape it down, the plastic has something to stick onto. Very nice. Now we can get full refinish around this edge. This is a good time to get our wax and grease remover out and clean up those areas that really accumulate a lot of dirt. Even though this has been washed off previously with water and soap, just want to take a little extra step, make sure our tape sticks. Now for this is what we're going to call back masking. We're going to use the back of the piece of tape and tape it under the quarter panel metal right here so that we get the full refinish on all of the metal and there's no line here that can bridge. And if you remember the bottom of this door that we just masked up, well, we're going to be using tape here again, back masked. That way when we put the plastic on, it has something to stick to. So we'll come in here, just like so, and we'll leave about half of the tape on one side and half of the tape on the other side. That's why I like this 1.5 inch tape. Perfect. We'll get our tailgate opened up. And we have this rubber portion that is very close to the actual quarter panel. So what I like to do is take little pieces of tape and I do them in this fashion to hold it down. If you do it this way, it's not going to have enough pressure. So by doing little pieces of tape, you can hold down this rubber tighter to the spoiler here on the tailgate. And this is the only portion of the tailgate that actually touches the quarter panel. We don't want that. So with that all done, then we can move on to the back masking here. And it's very simple in this area. There's no reason to have to do any sort of folded edge or paper because the back masking is going to seal it all off. So basically you're going to come here, again, half it, put it down halfway inside and halfway out, and this is going to seal off the two components, the two parts. We can see what that looks like on the other side. We'll just tuck this in here gently. And now we'll close the tailgate, ensuring that our tape stays on the outside, and then we'll just tape it down to the tailgate. Perfect. Now we can have a nice edge that's going to be soft on this edge, taped to the quarter tailgate. So it's very simple. All we have to do now is just tape it here. Perfect. Now sometimes what will happen is you will forget that you need to tape in some areas and everything will already be taped off and you have to go back and cut. For us, we forgot to tape off here at the top of the window, so we'll slit this back open on the bottom, open it up, and now we can do the top. Now for this, I follow the same method of back masking on this edge. I see a lot of people complicating this using foam tape and soft edge tape, when really this creates a soft edge right here. So just continue this all the way to the front door. And when you close it, all you gotta do is make sure it's above that molding right there. Now in some cases you'll have to remove that weather stripping. For this particular one, there's enough of a gap that we can just pull it down a little bit, and that weather stripping will actually keep that tape nice and firm to the edge so the overspray doesn't get through to the inside of the door jamb. Now over on the window, there's really no area to tape, and I'd rather tape over the glue because when the guys go to put the glass back in, they really need this not to be painted over because they need to be able to glue right back onto it after they scrape off some of the adhesive to give a nice clean finish. So I prefer to tape on it, but tape really has a hard time sticking to this urethane glue. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean it, and then I have a little trick that I'm gonna use. And this is a 3M adhesion promoter pad, 06396. And basically, it's a towelette that it has adhesion promoter on it, and you can apply it to the glue. And the reason for this is it just doesn't stick without a little bit of extra help. Let that flash off for a few minutes, and then we'll see how well the tape sticks to this urethane glue. And after a few minutes, we can apply our tape directly to that glue and won't have any issues. Now, this is the only area of the car that it's actually taped to the body. So when you pull this off, you just gotta be a little careful it doesn't bridge and pull clear or paint off into your exterior portion of the vehicle. And over in here, you'll just transition just like this, and then you can put your plastic here, which we'll show you in a little bit. Now moving on, we're gonna go ahead, put some tape on the inside of this door by going again, back masking it, just like so. Perfect. Now when we come here, what I like to do is I like to tape this to the car so it's easier for our plastic and it holds overspray out. So I'll just come here and I'll give it a double side tape, seal that in. Now moving forward, let's continue our back masking on the front of that door. Now, let's attack the inner portion between the rear and the front door. But you know, before we begin, it's gonna need a little bit of cleaner. Now, this particular door edge right here gets the rubber that we just folded back. So at this point, it doesn't necessarily need to get full gloss in here. What I like to do is just back mask it here with some 6-inch paper. To do that, I'll just back mask all the way down. We put it behind here, using the adhesive part of the tape, again halving it all the way down like so. Now for some particular cars there is no rubber here, so in that case what you would have to do is I would put most likely some of that folded tape in this edge so this stays nice and shiny from factory, and then you can get clear on the inside edge right there. We'll then take our 6-inch paper and we'll just tape it right to our back mask tape, just like so, keeping all the overspray out for a cleaner job. Over here on the inside edge of the front door, it's gonna be very similar to that rear door. In fact, it's gonna be exactly the same. We're just gonna come here right on this edge and tape it all the way down. Again, when paper meets paper, inside of the door edge, it's gonna be a nice clean finish so that no debris can get out. We'll tape it down so it has nowhere to go once we close the door. We'll tape down this paper as well so it has nowhere to go when we close the door. Now, we must be careful to close the door, and remember that tape here has to stay on the outside of the door trim molding. So we gotta make sure here we kind of lift this up a little bit. Sometimes it can get a little funny here, but you wanna make sure you do it properly the first time. And this is a good time to make sure you've checked the paint code, because you have to go back in here. It's gonna be a big mess. All right. Perfect. Make sure it's nice and flat here. Perfect, nice. Nice, nice, nice. And with the top edge all over the weather stripping and the two papers meeting, we'll just close it, and now it's sealed. Now in this area, we can go ahead and take our tape and tape it down. Again, we'll start at the back, moving towards the front, taping down and slightly pulling down on that tape so that that weather stripping won't be in the way. Again, if your weather stripping super tight, go ahead and remove it. For this particular car, it's not as tight as you think, so it actually offers a nice gap for the back masking tape, quarter panel, and door top molding. Understand that every vehicle is just a little bit different, so this is a general guide to get your feet wet. And from there, if you have any questions, just send me a DM on Instagram with some pictures, and I'd be happy to help you out. Perfect. Very nice. On this particular vehicle, insurance did not approve taking out the windshield. So here we can see that we can get clear access to inside of this actual A-pillar, but we want to tape right to the glass so that we can get in there. We're not going to put any backmasking in there because there's still a sizable gap to put some paint. Just make sure that edge is nice and scuffed. So for this, we're going to tape right, almost flush with the A-pillar and right over the glass so we can scoot in some paint. Now from the factory, I can even tell that that paint's not even really shiny, but we want to make sure that our paint goes all the way to the edge so we don't have any peeling issues. Perfect. Now over in here, what we're going to do is we're just going to slide it in, little piece at a time, just to make sure we have a sealed gap. It's going to seal from underneath and onto the fender. Then from here, we can increase the size of our tape so we can fit it in. Perfect. Now we just have this area to tape off. To do that, it'll be just like the rear. We'll get a piece of tape that's the same size of the front glass, and it's best to do one piece because when you join little pieces together for areas like this, that's where overspray can get through. Then we'll go ahead and tape it off. Now at the bottom, we can go all the way to the bottom and backmask again. Now, if you notice these holes right here, these squares, they go into the door, but the door is sealed and the window is up. So you're only getting a little overspray inside of the door where it really doesn't matter. So you have the option of taping them off or taping them to the back, but really you cannot get access to every little one of them. And I really don't find any big difference with leaving them open and just going into the door itself, since there's really no components that overspray is gonna get on and you're gonna effectively see. So we'll just tape right here to the bottom of the door with that back mask as well. We'll tidy up this edge right here. And I noticed just a little bit of unsanded clear that needs just a little bit of a scuff. This all gets covered by a molding, but even though it gets covered, for the proper full refinish, it still matters. And then we'll finish up right underneath here and get that taped up. Perfect. All right, now let's do the top. And at the top, there's a sizable gap that we can put our tape right into easily. We make sure that when we do the paint work, that we hold our gun at this angle to get the clear inside this edge here. Slide it in, put it down. Now, if you're wondering what this gadget is, it's called the tape thing. It's good because it helps get the tape rolled out evenly, protects your tape. So if it's on the ground, the edges are staying clean. It's also a magnet. Perfect, we're gonna finish in here. All right, we finish in here. Now we can start with the plastic. In this pocket, I'm again just gonna use that natural edge where the panel meets the body. That way you don't see any line. And that will be fine just there. There's a few ways to do this. You can get into painting the whole entire area here, but really we have a lot of connectors, a lot of things going on. So just a little bit of tape, and that's really just gonna be fine. On the top edge here, what I like to do is back mask it so that when we put our plastic down, it'll stick perfectly. Now we can see everything is completely bordered off. So now we can put the plastic down. We have some areas that are back masked that we're gonna need to be careful of because the actual plastic will stick to those areas first. So we can see here, we're now ready for the 3M plastic. Now there's all different plastics you can use. On this particular plastic, or any plastic for overspray, one side will be treated so you can put paint right over without flaking. You cannot use plastic from Home Depot. You'll notice here that there's an arrow, and the arrow will signify what direction to put it on the car. Always double check the arrow is in the correct position because sometimes these are packaged incorrectly and you'll be placing it on the wrong side. This tends to be a problem with the 3M. So just verify that before you paint. Now we're gonna pull that plastic over the car, and there's a certain way you have to do it so that you don't get yourself into trouble. And trust me, it can become a mess real quick when it comes to putting this plastic down. If you don't put it on properly, it will start sticking to all the tape, it'll start pulling the tape off, and it's something you don't wanna have to deal with. So when you get to the back of the car, you're gonna pull the plastic down so that the plastic meets the bottom of the floor. That's very important. Then you're gonna verify that the plastic's on properly in the correct position. On this particular one, it says here, paint this side. Now, although it might be a little bit difficult to see, it says paint this side, and it's written in the correct orientation. If it was backwards, you would know that your plastic was on backwards. And another indication to know that it's going on properly is it will always fold from the bottom out. That's the way that they're manufactured, so it's easy to put on. Now here's where you need to be super careful. You're gonna pull the plastic on one side that you're painting, and if you're painting both sides, you should probably get an extra hand here. You're gonna pull the plastic to the point where it's about halfway, where you don't have any of that back masking, and then you're gonna lift it up and you're gonna bring it down. So let's get it about halfway first, because we don't want it sticking to any of that back mask tape. Now the good thing about this 3M high performance tape is it doesn't give up easily. It will stick to the car. So we're gonna bring it here, off of the car as best as you can, and bring it all the way down like so. Just like that. Bring it off the car and bring it all the way down like so. And in the back. Bring it off the car. Some areas it will stick. Off the car and bring it down like so. Perfect. Now the other side is not big of a deal because there's actually no tape here. So go ahead and you can just pull it down a little bit more freely. Now, unfortunately, we are not in a downdraft booth, which would just suck the plastic to the bottom. Well, actually, fortunately, because a lot of you guys aren't either. You're at home. This is the way you tape a car in the body shop without a downdraft, and this is the way you tape a car at home. What do I mean by that? I'm gonna show you what to do with the plastic from now. You just don't put it into a ball and tie it up. I'm gonna show you what you need to do. You need to pay attention. If you pay attention to anything in the video, this is the most important part of the video. So make sure you watch this, watch it over again, and I want you to apply it to your own car and let me know the results. So here we're gonna go. We're gonna pull this down, nice and even. Now what we need to do is suck up all the plastic around the vehicle. We need to make it nice and tight so the plastic's not flapping around, because what happens is once air gets underneath it, it's gonna bubble up, it's gonna be flapping, it's gonna look really ugly. So you're gonna take the corner here, you're gonna wrap it up like this. Then you're gonna take the end of it, you're gonna go like this, you're gonna twirl it around, kind of like a ponytail, twirl it around, then you're gonna make a knot. You're gonna make a knot here. We have a knot. Now we're gonna do this to all four corners of the car. We're gonna come here. We're gonna get it as tight as we can to the body. We're gonna take our extension here and we're gonna twirl it around. Smooth it out, twirl it around. Now you wanna do this first on the side that doesn't have the box on it. This is what we're gonna do first. Let me show you now. You're now gonna take these two edges and you're gonna pull them together like this. Once you pull them together, it's gonna make a basic knot. This is gonna hold the back end of the plastic together. Then you're gonna take your tape on the back here, you're gonna tape it to that knot. You are not gonna take everything here, twirl it up into one big knot. Don't do that, that's the wrong thing to do. Take the edges, put them together, twirl them together, take the excess from the back, put that all together. Now, I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do for the front. On the front, you're gonna cut the plastic off right at the box, okay? Do not leave the box here while you paint. That's a no-no. You want this independent. If you leave the box here, that's how air is gonna get underneath your paint job. So scoot that out of there. Now we're gonna follow that same process. And what you're gonna see is that now the car is gonna start to suck in on the sides. It's gonna start to pull it tight on the sides. Gonna twirl it around a little bit. Get it nice and thin. Gonna make my knot. Gonna hold it here, pull it through. Perfect. Nice and tight. Now, as I do this fourth side, I want you to look at the plastic on the side of your angle of the car. You see it's starting to get tighter. This is what we want. Twirl this up. Make it tight. Perfect. Then we'll come to the passenger side, and we'll come to the driver's side, and I'm gonna make that same knot that we made in the back. Pull that tight. Now, for my next trick, you can see how it's tightening up, but it's not completely tight. You're gonna take your same tape, you're gonna pull this down as far as it can go. You're gonna take the tape about a quarter of the way in, and you're gonna wrap it all the way around to the inside of the tire. Stick it down. This is gonna create that downdraft effect where everything is completely sucked, okay? Perfect. Put a little tape here because it came up just a little bit short. Now we're gonna go to the front, do the same thing. Now you'll notice as I'm doing this, it's gonna pull the plastic tighter. So watch this. As I come here and I suck it in here, it's gonna pull that plastic all along that rocker nice and tight. And the last thing you're gonna do here, on that back mass edge we did prior, we're gonna stick it to it, just like so. Then I'm gonna take my tape, and I'm gonna take a long piece and try to catch something underneath the car. So now we really have airtight area for no paint to get on the vehicle where we don't want it, and a cleaner paint job. And with the other side done, you can see how tight that plastic is. Now, before we've even cut the plastic in the areas we're gonna paint, we can see the whole entire plastic has engulfed the car nice and tight, but we can still have some areas where we can pull it tighter. We're gonna go into now how to cut the plastic, to tape it, and make sure we have a nice job ready for paint. And we're always gonna be using a single edge razor. And we're gonna start from the bottom working up. Because of gravity, it just makes things 10 times easier. And only a couple areas will be cutting directly the tape on the panel that's already painted. The rest is just backmask. But when we cut, we don't really need to dig in. That's why I always prefer a fresh blade, because it's just minimal work. Now, this is a technique that you're gonna need to perfect and be careful with. If you're a little bit too scared, you could just use an envelope opener, which is a lot safer for maybe a do-it-yourselfer because it has a protected edge that will guide you along the way. For me, I'm a little bit experienced, so we're gonna go ahead and cut it out. And again, we're gonna cut on a dotted line. It's just like elementary school. You did your border, you're gonna cut on a dotted line, and you're gonna get a nice clean finish and tape it as you go. So I will cut and tape in sections. I don't prefer to cut everything out. I prefer to cut and tape in sections. That way the plastic isn't all over the place and I can control it. So I will do the bottom edge first because of gravity, and then I'll work my way up towards the sides. Now, since I have a little plastic that's a little bit loose here, I'm gonna pull it a little bit towards here. Now, when I go to cut, I'm concerned about cutting a car, I always like to hold the plastic up just a little bit so I'm not directly cutting on the tape. Yes, you can go through the tape and cut right into that painted fender. So be very careful when you're doing this. Now we're here on the other side. We're gonna use our back masking tape to stick it, and that's gonna hold it in place. And here, we're gonna be less careful because it doesn't matter as much because we're just cutting right on the tape and not the panel. We'll pull it up a little bit as we go. Make sure it's nice and cut. And then we'll work this section and we'll tape it. And again, try if possible to use the longest piece possible so you don't have any gaps in your tape and you get a nice clean finish and you don't have any areas that can stick up. This is very important when it comes to a paint job. Every little part helps to get the best, cleanest paint job when it comes to a black vehicle. Before we cut, I always like to pull a little bit to get the most tension out of the plastic that's still gonna stay on the vehicle. This is important when it comes to, again, not spraying in a downdraft booth that's gonna take all of the air out of the plastic. So before I get to the middle section with the glass, I will make sure everything is taped. You can see here, this is a section here, so I'll attempt to do this all in one stretch so that nothing will have to be taped over again because it's pulling up. Again, always looking at your edges, making sure everything is good and tidy. You can't expect for the first time you do it to be perfect every time. So just inspect your own self, be your own quality control representative when it comes to paint. So if someone else sees it, they can't spot anything. We'll finish up here on the quarter bumper area. And it doesn't take much just to pop that bumper off to get full refinish around that edge. And even though this is a loaner vehicle, we still want to do it the best possible way. Now for this section, we still have a little bit of tape at the bottom here that wasn't taped over, so we can back mask it. See how that just sticks right to there. And now we're just gonna border it out. I'm gonna start with the bottom first. Always like to start with the bottom because gravity, if you start with the top, it just starts to fold down on you and it can get messy. The one thing I learned with doing masking, just work small sections at a time, because once it starts to fall on itself, it gets super messy. Now this video might not be the most glamorous video, but it is by far one of the most important videos. It's a video I wish I had when I started off, but we're not gonna cover every little panel in this video because it's just a side panel. So if you have any questions, again, just leave a comment and I'll get back to you. Now we can see here, we only really need to use plastic. What would be the case to use paper? Maybe a personal preference. I prefer plastic, it's a little bit easier. We don't have a whole bunch of open paper areas. In some cases, if you're doing a full refinish and the whole car is getting painted, sometimes paper is a little bit quicker because they don't have the flapping of the plastic. You're just covering the glass portions, and maybe it's a cheaper job, so you're throwing some wheel covers on the tires if you're doing more of an economy job. I can see that. And paint and auto body, there's different tiers to auto body. Obviously, this is going to be the full refinish in the proper way for warranty, but there might be some areas at your house or your job that might need to tape some things off. So if you're going to be taping something off that is close to bridging, what you're going to want to do is you're going to tape it off first, and then after the plastic, you're going to put a little bit of fine line on that edge. Now that edge is going to be the first thing that you're going to take off about 20 to 30 minutes after your last coat of clear. That will ensure that it won't bridge. For us, we're not going to have that issue because we don't have any bridging. We're going to go ahead and cut up here on the top of our glass. Pull some plastic away because this is almost done. Perfect. All right, we'll line it up. Try to get one full piece of tape here. Seal this in. Now, what do you prefer, 1.5 inch or 2 inch? I find that 1.5 inch just easier because it can get into smaller nooks and crannies, and it's still wide enough to cover a larger area, and it has more of the strength that you need. Now, the last part is probably the most important because we can really get a little bit more of a pull out of that plastic. That's why we work from the bottom up to ensure we can get a nice, firm, tight pull. Very important, again, for the cleanest paint job, you have the cleanest masking. And tape it down. Now we have one more area to do. That's gonna be the openings on the doors. And it's the only time I use foam, really. Now for those door openings, I will use a little bit of foam, only mainly because of its thickness and the advantage of it being able to block out that overspray. So you're just gonna stuff it in. Now there is the inner door handle here, and that's up to you guys if you wanna take it off. I feel like most shops really just aren't taking it off. It's not necessary, but you can come off and you could put some tape behind it. For this, we just fold it up and you stick it in. And with the tape all done, it's time to do a little vacuuming to our like 90 pig mat, and then we're gonna put a little coating on the floor so we get the cleanest possible job. And this is a like 90 particle control. Basically, it's gonna keep the floor and anything that falls on the floor held down so we don't have any dust that goes into our paint job. I like to spray it underneath and everywhere I'm gonna be painting, and it really does a good job of getting a nice clean paint job. And I'll use every single type of help I can get when it comes to painting a black vehicle. And once we got this all down, this isn't a painting video, so let's go ahead and supersonic speed, get this all painted up, come back and show you how we take the tape off, and again, go over those areas that might be bridging for your project. If you need to tape off a molding or a window or a glass, what you would do. Literally just finished spraying a minute ago. Check out the finish, it looks absolutely beautiful. Now, when do we remove the tape? In my case, I'm not gonna remove the tape until it's completely dry. Professional environment, I will bake it 45 minutes. I'll show you how to remove the tape. But what if you have tape that's bridged? Well, do not remove it right away. Give that clear about maybe 20, 30 minutes. It's not gonna be completely cured, but it's gonna start to tack up. So just in case you get a little dust on it or something like that, you don't have to worry about it getting into the paint. So, areas that you would need to take it off: if you taped it to the window, you would take off that last piece of tape that you put on at the very end. You would take it off there. You would take off anything if you had to tape it to the belt molding, any moldings on a door. You would take that off in about 20 to 30 minutes. But if you don't have anything bridging, leave it. If you tape it like this, like I showed you, you're never gonna have to worry about any bridging areas on the vehicle. You get much more better peace of mind. So let's bake this. Then I'll show you how to take off the tape, and then we'll take a look at the job as a whole. And after bake, this is what it looks like. This is a 45-minute bake at 145 degrees. And let's take a look. It's dry, and it came out great, still holding a great gloss. Now, we're gonna be removing our tape, and here's how we're gonna be removing it. We're gonna be removing it in the reverse fashion. So we're gonna be starting here at the top, starting to remove, and then we're gonna start the front door, open that up. We wanna make sure to remove all the bordering before we open up any of the doors so that the paint doesn't have a chance to touch any of the tape. Although it is dry, it's not completely cured, so we gotta be careful there. So we'll be careful to remove it, and when I remove it, I take it and split it open so nothing has a chance to fall back onto the paint. Even though, again, it's wet, cured paint will react different to just dry paint. So we'll go ahead and remove, and we don't really have anything that's, again, bridged to the panel, so we don't have any issues just pulling things off. But it's always good to use a little caution when removing the tape. Now, a little trick, you can see the overlapping starts from the bottom to the top. So we'll come here, and we'll be able to remove. And remove it all in one piece instead of it breaking apart. At the top, we can pull it away, and make sure we're always pulling away from our painted panels, just in case. Over here, we can gently pull it, and as we gently pull it, it will reveal that the weather stripping just connects right back up to the A, B, and C pillar. Perfect. And I'll show you here in a moment that beautiful soft edge it created. We'll continue across our rear door, pulling down at a 45-degree angle. And our tape here stuck beautifully to our urethane glue. And now it's nice and intact so that the glass guy to come back and put his urethane once he cuts it down. In this area, we want to push it back so we don't have to worry about it hitting our fresh paint. Once we push it back and off, then we can go ahead and just remove it with ease. We'll follow the same technique here on the rear door and pull it up. Again, at a 45 away from the paint. See here, nothing is bridging. We'll hold off on this because we have to open a door. And along our back section here, we'll remove our tape, pull it away and down. We'll be a little careful here because this area did come close to our clear coat. So we want to make sure we pull it away so we don't pull any of that clear coat off of the area that's still intact. We'll save the tailgate for last once all the plastic's off, but we'll go ahead and pull off this area. Nice and easy. Perfect. Now we have that full refinish around the quarter panel. At this point, tap that back bumper right back in. Along the bottom, it just gets easier because it's back masked. Make sure you crawl around that tire, get everything nice and removed, so when customer gets it, there's not tape on the back of their vehicle. You don't want to be going down the road and see green tape sticking to the back tire. Go ahead and pull this off. Again, pushing towards the back. We got full refinish all along the bottom end of our doors. Removing that tape that attaches to the body and reach around, grab that tape. Perfect. Very nice. And sometimes overspray will make it to areas you don't want, like this glass. So just a little bit of reducer will clean it right off. No problem. Perfect. Then we'll carefully take the plastic and move it towards the opposite end of the car so that it's not going to be anywhere near our paint job. Once it's completely taken off, then we can move on to our doors. On our doors, we'll take out our foam, which does a great job of keeping all the overspray out of the door. We'll take our latch and open it carefully. Once we do that, we'll reveal our paper. We'll gently take off our paper. Open up the rest of the door. Find our other paper that's still attached. Push it back and remove it. And we can see here, nice, beautiful, soft edge all the way. No hard line. At this point, we can remove our foam from the rear door perfectly. Open up our latch, and then we'll reveal our paper in the door jamb that we can remove. Then our soft edge tape is going to leave a nice smooth line here that you cannot even detect where the paint started and ended. And here's a closer look at the finish between the old and the new. Undetectable. Finally, we'll open our tailgate. You can see there some tape that was stuck to both. Was a little stuck, but no problem. It came right off since nothing's bridged. It's got a nice smooth edge right here. So all we have to do is remove that tape. Now this tape held down that weather stripping from before, and it did a great job. So we don't have to worry about any bridging of that weather stripping to the actual painted portion of the car. Now let's take a closer look at how they two meet up nice and smooth. We can see here the weather stripping never had a chance to touch the painted surface all the way through. It's a nice smooth finish. We'll close this up and take a look at our final job before it gets assembled. We'll go ahead and move the car out, take it outside, and then admire our work. And after we pulled it out, you can see a seamless repair from back to front with no tape lines anywhere. Nice smooth finish, complete job. Following these simple procedures can help you master the art of taping down your vehicle for paint. And of course, there's more to taping than just a couple doors and a quarter panel. But if you have some more questions, make sure you leave a comment. And again, tell me where you're watching from. I would love to know. Guys, this is Brian from Paint Society reminding you, don't overthink it. It's just paint. I'll see you guys on the next episode.